One way to optimize life experience we find in our research is to have a good lunch. And I think you are probably feeling that need at this point. So I would just recommend that whenever you feel like, please feel free to leave this audience and have a good lunch, okay? I was told that because we run late, we should keep this talk to about 12 minutes. And that's kind of difficult because it takes about 3 days to come from Los Angeles, go back and so forth. And so I will talk more than 12 minutes, but feel free to go and enjoy a well-deserved lunch whenever you want. Okay. So having set these rules, so to speak, let me talk a little bit about, as the previous introduction said, my interest is in something called flow, which is the experience that people report when they are most enjoying their life, when they are really involved in their life, when they feel that they could go forever doing this thing, and they don't do it primarily for money or for status, for power, but because they like to do what they are doing. And this is, it turns out, a very essential part of life. It's we grow by experiencing flow. And this is one topic that so far this morning hasn't been dealt with. Most of the things that I heard are really very important. From the beginning, it's important for a community of people to feel that they are free, that they can live their life the way they want to, more or less within rules, of course, but still that they have choices. Another thing that we find is that trust is very important. Not just trust in government, politics, but also in the neighbors, the neighborhood, the people you live with. This is important. We find also our recent comparative studies, we find that people who live close to the sea are happier than those who live inland, far from the sea, which is kind of interesting. I don't know what it means, but it is certain that there are many things that make us happy. I will focus on one aspect, which is that of acting with full involvement in life, that is fully alive, being fully alive, and what that means and how does it feel like. Now, I don't know how this works. Let's see. It's not the right one. Okay, it looks like this. So, well, I probably should move that. Could we move it to the next one? Okay. So essentially, the point is that what we do is conditioned by our genes, by our environment, by the forces around us, and we can either decide, okay, these are the cards that I've been dealt, and this is what I can do with my life, or you can say, hey, how can I take control over what's happening to me? And I'm trying to talk about this aspect of life, and to a certain extent what governments can do or cannot do to help around with this. When you are taking control of your life, you start enjoying it, and vice versa. This is, for instance, one of the leading poets of the past generation the United States, Mark Strand. And I did interviews with people who had done something that took them out of the ordinary, that gave them a feeling that they have pushed whatever they were doing forward, they had contributed to the world by doing it, and he did it by writing poems. And in the interview I asked, how does it feel when you are doing this, when you are writing a poem? And he says, you're writing the work, you lose your sense of time, you're completely enraptured, you're completely caught up in what you're doing. There's no future or past, it's just an extended present in which you are making meaning. Okay, well, this is a very good description of what I call the flow experience, because this is a poet, but you talk to a great skier or a great athlete or a great chess player or anybody who is doing something beyond the ordinary, and this is what they say. I'm so involved in what I'm doing that I don't care about past, future, I'm just doing this thing right in the moment. This is another person who I interviewed, and he's a cell biologist who 3 of his students got the Nobel Prize in biology. He didn't get it himself, but all his students say it's because of him that they became well known. And he says that, looking at microscope, for him it's like watching a great show on television. There's all kinds of things are happening, but he's learning from what he's seeing, and he's trying to figure out what is happening there. He says it's like a video game. It's just beautiful. I can sit in front of a microscope for 3 or 4 hours just looking at the material and analyzing it. It can be very disconnecting to other people. They wonder, why is he so involved? And he says, well, I can do that because I feel that I'm part of this thing that's happening, and it's part of me, and I'm part of it, and I'm learning, and I'm helping, in a sense, helping humanity doing this. And these are the experiences which are called the flow experience. Because when people are in this state of mind, they feel like they are like a river flowing down by its own, and it's a kind of a feeling of effortless power, which is what really means to be fully alive. Okay? So the first thing that people who are in this condition say, that their concentration is very much focused on a small part of the world. The world is full of interesting things, but you can't pay attention to everything. That's what the Buddhists call a monkey mind. The monkey mind is like jumping from tree to tree. Your mind jumps from one idea to the other. But you have to focus if you want to achieve a real feeling of being alive. And this is, for instance, a chess player who says that concentration is like breathing. When you never think of it. The roof could fall, and if it missed you, you wouldn't notice it. And this is very typical. In fact, I did talk to a chess player who played in a tournament, and the roof fell in partly and didn't notice it. But so it's not an exaggeration. When you are playing really a close game, nothing else matters. You're focused of attention to the point that you are no longer noticing what you're doing. You're just doing it almost automatically. For instance, here is a rock climber who is going up it takes a day to move up to the top of this climb. And the climber says, you're so involved in what you're doing, you aren't thinking of about the separate from the rock or the activity. You are no longer a participant observer, you're just participating. You're moving in harmony with something else that you are part of it. So this is very typical. You're a musician, you are an athlete, you are a thinker. And each one of these people say, oh, I am at one with what I am doing. I am completely involved in what I'm doing. And that's when action and awareness is merging. And then you're not worried about failure because you're so into what you're doing that the failure is a possibility, but you're not worried about it. For instance, here are these bicycle racers who says, you feel like there's nothing that will be able to stop you or get in your way. You're ready to tackle anything. You don't fear any possibility happening. It's just exhilarating. You feel like you are in an activity that is self-sustaining and you are parting of it. And you have to be very careful, of course, because you could run into the next person and you both fall. So you are very careful, you're very using your skills to the extreme, but you're not worried about not succeeding. And when all of these conditions are present, you kind of start not thinking about yourself as a separate entity, or thinking about what can happen to you, what you want to achieve, or what your failures were in the past. For instance, surgeons are very much in the flow usually when they do surgery. And those who can't enjoy surgery move out sooner or later, one way or the other. And the surgeon here says that when you're operating, you're not aware of the body, of your body, except for your hands. Not aware of yourself or your personal problems. You're so involved, you are not aware that your feet are aching or that you are a great surgeon. You are just worrying about not cutting the artery or not cutting the muscle, just being as careful as possible. And that is a great relief from the everyday kind of self-protection and self-awareness that you go. And then when all of these conditions are present, you forget time, for instance. This is a disco dancer back in the 70s says that there are two things that happen when you're dancing. First of all, time seems to have passed so fast that it's 1 in the morning and I thought that just a few minutes have passed by. But when you are actually dancing, it seems like time is expanding. You're living in a great... so it's an interesting reversion of what we usually do. We usually think, oh my gosh, it takes so long, it's only 3 o'clock and 2 more hours at work, and every hour becomes a very painful and dragged out thing. But here, hours can pass by seemingly in minutes and so forth. And there are all kinds of very interesting ways this happens in sports, in playing music, or playing with your children, or whatever requires that you pay attention, and so forth. So that's we could go, okay, when all those things happen, then you feel that what you're doing is worth doing for its own sake. In this case, a composer of music who teaches young people to play instrument, he says, I always tell my students, do music for the satisfaction it gives you. You don't expect to make much money, don't expect fame or a pat on the back, don't expect a damn thing. Just do it because you love it. And that is the advice that I think any expert in the field, in any field, would give a young person. Okay, so these 6 conditions are always present. We studied them in the United States, but people have replicated this in China, in Africa, all over the world, and people seem to do this everywhere that more or less experience it this way. And there are 3 conditions that we have to be present in order to be in this situation. You should have clear goals, know what to do next moment by moment. And that, for instance, the climber here is a climber who says that climbing is self-catalyzing, that is, self-creating. Every move creates the next one. The move you're planning to do is also what you will need to know in order to make the one afterwards. So you can't extend yourself too far or you will be falling back. So this is, the other one is that you should be getting feedback all the way and on what you're doing. For instance, here, Duke Ellington, famous jazz musician, says that he is writing the music in another room, but has 4 or 5 players waiting for him. So every page he writes, he takes to these people to play so he can hear how it sounds and then change what he's doing. So feedback, we have to learn to get feedback to what we are doing if we want to enjoy what we are doing. And then finally that there is a balance between what needs to be done and what you can do. Challenge skill. So here you have, if you think about skills, low skills, high skills, low challenge, high challenge, flow occurs in between these 2 dimensions of the activity. It's that, and when you are in this case, when the skills are much higher than challenges, you are bored. When the challenges are higher than the skills, you feel anxious. But when the 2 are in balance, then you feel this feeling of complete involvement, engagement with what you're doing that is worth doing for its own sake. And you start at A, usually you start with low skills, low challenge, and if you do this for a while, your skills increase, but if the challenge remains the same, you feel bored. So you need to increase your challenge, and now you're back in flow. And it may be that suddenly you are given higher challenges, then you are anxious, and then what you have to do to be back in flow, you have to increase your skills. So in a sense, this is why learning requires a constant adjustment of your skills to what can be done out there in the world. And when these 2 are together, you feel completely involved and able to enjoy life and feel as part of life. I could go on and on, like For instance, in everyday life, we find that flow occurs, in fact, when both challenges and skills are high. And when skills are higher than challenges, you feel control, then relaxation is high skills, low challenges, boredom is average skills, low challenges, apathy is low challenge, low skills, worry is challenges are getting high, anxiety is there, arousal is close to flow. And the problem is that to bring this back to the issue of governance, that so much of our institutions, schools, work, keep the skills out of balance, and we feel bored, we feel apathetic because there's nothing to do, you can't do anything, you don't have enough challenges, or if you have challenges, often they are out of proportion to your ability to perform. So you have, after a while, entire nations, entire societies where people feel bored, apathetic. I come from one of those countries that had been under Soviet occupation for a long period, since World War II, and the schools and the workplaces are all organized for minimum effort, minimum challenge, and the people are bored and apathetic. And that is kind of a system where nobody's growing, nobody's enjoying life, and it's not a very good system. Well, I could speak for another 2 hours, but I promise to try to keep this short. So here I am, and I hope you have a very good lunch. And if you have questions afterwards, maybe we can talk after in the hallways or whatever. Thank you for listening.